Hey everyone, welcome back to the Percy Jackson Son of Poseidon podcast. So this is going to be my review for Season 2, Episode 7. So I'm sorry I'm really behind, but, we're getting caught up. And so, let's just go ahead and get on into this episode. So this is the penultimate episode of Season 2. And we start with the episode starts with a flashback of Chiron introducing the camp members to Thalia's tree. And so we get young Luke and Annabeth, and they're kind of like looking over Thalia's tree, and Chiron kind of explains the tree is there to protect them, and it does create the barrier, I think. Young Luke is a bit distracting for me. He just looks like Luke with a beanie, whereas they got, a younger actress to play Annabeth, and so I don't know why they didn't just hire a younger actor to play, because I'm not really sure how old he's supposed to be in the flashback, but he looks the same age. So, and when you're a teenager, you don't look the same age from year to year. So it's a little distracting, especially since they did get somebody to play young Annabeth. And she does look much younger. So I don't know why we didn't get a young Luke, because I don't know. For me, it's distracting. Does it distract anybody else? I don't know, maybe. Putting a beanie on him is, not the same. But then we see Annabeth wakes up, and she's on board the Princess Andromeda cruise ship, and she has the Golden Fleece on her, so she's healed. And I think Allison Sims comes and takes the Golden Fleece off of her, and that's so that she can go put it on Kronos later. So we get them on the Princess Andromeda, and we see that they've kind of parked the ship in Long Island, and there's kind of like a funny little scene where the harbor master get the ship off my harbor or something. And so then we get Percy, Tyson, Grover, and Clarice, and they kind of capture one of Luke's henchmen. And again, we see Tyson use his Cyclops mimic voice to kind of lure the henchman, thinking it's, I think, Allison. And so, Percy and Clarice kind of fight over the leadership role of who has the better plan, who should be doing what. Of course, Clarice, is just tell me everything, give me everything, I'm gonna go do it. And Percy's like, no, I have the experience being on board this ship. And of course, their priorities are different. Percy wants to save Annabeth. Clarice wants to get the Golden Fleece. And so it's kind of an interesting little dynamic between the two of them, and that they're both kind of, these leader types that want to take charge. But it is technically Clarice's quest, even though Percy feels like he should be the one. But also he really wants to save Annabeth. So it's an interesting little scene we have there. Grover just kind of offhandedly mentions that there's something going on at camp because they can't get through with the iris messages. That doesn't... I think there's a mention later in the episode. One of Luke's henchmen says they're the reason you can't get the iris message, or they have campers on the inside. I don't know. It doesn't really ever come back again, so I'm not really sure why we bring it up. But I guess it's kind of just a way to be we can't communicate with camp. And of course, when Percy and Clarice are fighting, he kind of throws her prophecy back in her face by saying, the prophecy says you're going to fail the quest, without friends. And of course, that hits, Clarice, pretty hard personally, because both she does not want to fail the quest because of her father Ares, but also I think she does feel she knows that she doesn't really have friends, and I think that is an insecurity of hers that she just doesn't really know how to deal with. And so then Luke, Allison Sims brings the fleece to Luke, and he's always kind of yelling at her, stop telling me what to do with her. And he's I make the decisions, and she's whatever, let's just get this fleece on Kronos. And so they finally put the fleece on Kronos' coffin, and I gotta say, they could have made the fleece look a little bit cooler. I think it kind of just looks like golden wool bath mat. It doesn't look that great, which I get. That's what a real sheep's fleece looks like. Sure, it's wool. I just feel it could have made it a little bit cooler, because it is magical also, so it could look like anything. So just a little minor nitpick. But so they put it on Kronos' coffin, and it's kind of the coffin starts to light up a little bit, so it's starting to heal Kronos, gain a little bit more power. And Allison Sims, I gotta say, she's all in, man. She is the villain. She is all in on being bad and raising Kronos. And I actually kind of like the character. I like to hate her, because she's an easy character to kind of like, latch on to hate, because like you don't really know her, so you don't really care about her redemption. I think she's a made up character for the show, which is good because we don't have any preconceived, attachments to her. So I gotta say I kind of like that about it, is that she can just kind of be the villain that kind of we don't really want Luke to be, even though he technically keeps reminding her he's in charge. So then Clarice like goes like she takes the key card and like the information Percy gave her, and so she goes off to the ship, and Percy's like, well, she's gonna go after the fleece, so I need to go get Annabeth. So then he goes on the ship, and they're just like sneaking around the ship here, and I like that we're getting more time to explore the cruise ship. So I like coming back to a setting we've already seen. That's a nice little aspect. And Percy's like running around the deck, and there's for some reason a tent set up, and there's a winged horse. It's Blackjack, and it's kind of a Percy like goes in, and like Percy like you don't hear the horse speak actual words, but by Percy's response to it, you can clearly tell that he's communicating with the horse. So I think next season maybe we'll get the horse speaking, but remember it's like he's speaking inside Percy's head though, I think, or something. I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But it's definitely kind of interesting to see Percy like communicating with the horse, and he seems totally chill by it too. He's not like, "Whoa, I can understand a horse." He's like totally chill. He's like, "Yeah, this is my friend Blackjack." So why is the horse on there? I don't know. If Luke had a winged horse the whole time, couldn't he have just flown to Polyphemus's island? I don't know. I think it's just here to set up Blackjack for season 3. So then Percy finds Annabeth using her cap of invisibility, and they have a quick moment, but then he has to hide because Luke and his gang shows up, and Annabeth tries to convince Luke she still doesn't want to give up on him, and because they were friends ish, and when she was young I think she was maybe too naive to see the I don't want to say hatred, but like the darkness that was in him that was clearly was building when he was with Talia, and his sort of like disdain for the gods. And so she was a young girl, so maybe she didn't really understand that and didn't see that side. So to her, she looked up to him, and now that she's a little grown up, she needs to sort of, kind of understand that that was always in him, and that this is this is not just something that came out of nowhere, right? So I think that is kind of interesting, and it does make it a little tough for Annabeth, but she does try to convince him and talk to him, and she tells him that she thinks they could still save Thalia by giving the Golden Fleece and healing the tree, and that might bring back Thalia, because she said like when she had the Golden Fleece on her, she could sense its powers. So it's kind of interesting. It does give Luke a little bit of a pause, and then so Luke sends like Percy like sneaks out with the invisibility cap, so Luke sends his people to go after him, and Percy ends up finding the fleece. And Luke like gets like a headache from Kronos or something. But so then in the meantime, Grover and Tyson are tasked with finding a way back to camp. So initially Tyson hotwires a truck, but neither of them can drive. So I don't know why they didn't think of that first. But it just kind of gives Tyson something to do. Shows again how good he is with mechanics and engineering and fixing things. So it's kind of funny. But then Tyson remembers, they can call Sally. And so we get Sally here, and I like that she's like shopping at the store. And, Grover, she's like, "What's going on, Grover, Tyson?" And Grover's like trying to like gaslight her, "Oh, we're on a field trip or whatever." And I love that Sally's just like, cut the shit, Grover. Like, what's really going on? Like, I got a demigod son and a Cyclops, like almost like stepson. Like, I know what's up. And there's like the over-the-counter girls just like side-eyeing her. It's kind of funny. Cute little scene. I like seeing Sally return and giving her something to do. And I like that. I like this version of Sally where she is still the very caring mother for Percy, but she is a little bit more active in her role in terms of Percy's demigod life. And I kind of like that for Sally, in that she's not just the stay-at-home mom making blue candy. We'll see if she gets to Paul Blofus in the next books, but the next seasons. So we'll see. But so anyway, they call Sally, and Sally comes to wherever they are on Long, because they're all, I think they're like a Montauk maybe. So anyway, so she goes to go pick them up. So before Percy gets to Kronos, Allison Sims gets orders from Kronos. Kind of like a creepy little scene, but like he's like speaking in her head, and so he gives her the orders to basically go kill Annabeth, right? Because she needs to be offed. So she takes some recruits, and they're off to go kill. Like she gathers the recruits from an area where they were like, I don't know, I think playing cards or something, some sort of locker room. But Clarice overhears them. So then Clarice decides to go save Annabeth also. But luckily, Percy was already on his way to get the fleece from Kronos, right? There's a lot going on here. So Percy makes it to Kronos' coffin, and he can hear Kronos speak, and Kronos tells Percy about the great prophecy. So he recites the prophecy to him, but then like Percy like just yanks it off. He's like, I don't want to hear it, Kronos. So, I like Percy. He's kind of just like, we don't got time for this. I'm taking the fleece back. And then while Luke was talking to Annabeth, he gets like a headache message from Kronos or something. So he runs off to go after Percy. And then so Clarice, is going off after Allison Sims, who's trying to kill Annabeth. So then we get our fight scene. So we got Percy versus Luke fighting over Kronos' coffin about the Golden Fleece. And then Clarice and Annabeth are fighting off Allison Sims and her friends in under the ship or whatever, where they're the holding area. And I gotta say, Clarice is such a badass. Like, she's like so cool. She's fighting, and I love that she's like, I really needed that fight. Like, she's in it, man. I like it, and I like seeing Annabeth fight too. I also like to see. She hasn't been fighting that much this season, so I like seeing Annabeth get into the action also. And it's a really cool fight scene. And I'm not really sure what happens. I don't think Allison Sim dies, so I think they just ran away or something. Or got knocked out for temporarily. Who knows? So then Luke and Percy are fighting, and Luke stabs Percy. But luckily Percy had the fleece on him, and he's in an elevator, so he just heals himself with the fleece. And he kind of also can sense the fleece's power too. And Luke is after it, man. He's like, I'm done, Percy. I'll stab you if I have to. Don't mess with me. A little violent, but. So, and I do like the quiet moment between Clarice and Annabeth after Clarice saves her. They kind of a little, moment of recognition where Annabeth's like, I thought you were going after the fleece, and, Clarice is like, yeah, well, thought I'd save you first, or something like that. You can tell, Clarice is trying to make an effort. She understands where Percy's coming from about having friends and about having people on your side, and that it's better to have them and do the quest than to, lose a friend and lose the quest, or lose a friend and still do the quest. So I don't know. She's going through some stuff. I like Clarice. So then they all make it to the top of the deck, and they meet up with Blackjack, and Percy basically tells Clarice to fly back to camp on Blackjack. It's the fastest way, and he gives her the fleece, and he tells her this is your quest. And you can tell, he apologizes to her about throwing the prophecy interface, and you could tell she's insecure about failing in the prophecy, but Percy tells her, I was wrong, and it's a nice little moment between them, kind of recognizing each other, and so Clarice flies off on Blackjack back to camp, and then we get Sally pulls up, and she gives them all a ride back to Camp Half-Blood also, and then the episode ends with Kronos telling Luke to burn down the camp and kill the son of Poseidon. And then we see the last Dragonian giants throwing fireballs at the camp barrier. And that's the way this episode ends. So it's mostly on the ship. And I like it because we are furthering the Kronos plot a lot, and we're getting a lot of Luke here. And I like the moments we get between him and Annabeth. It's very contrasting to the moments he has with Allison Sims. He really doesn't like Allison Sims wanting to kill Annabeth, and I think she sees it as a weakness of his, and he's like, I don't care, I gotta protect Annabeth because I promised Talia. So I don't know, it's just some good character moments here. Again, Allison Sims is just kind of a villain character that we can all love to hate, but again, we get some good moments with Clarice. Obviously the Blackjack, I think, was kind of a fun kind of nod for the fans of the books, and he'll definitely have a bigger role going forward in season 3. And again, I think it's kind of funny. Percy's just yeah, I can talk to a horse. It's whatever. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, this was a good episode. I really did enjoy it. There's a lot of good stuff here. The action I thought was pretty decent. Not a whole lot of Tyson and Grover. They're kind of on the sideline mission, but that's okay. I do like them teaming up because they're like the sort of comedic side characters, relief characters, and I do like the focus on like this is also Clarice's mission, it's her quest, and I think that it's kind of interesting that they all like Luke definitely wants to protect Annabeth for sure. Percy goes to save Annabeth, but once he sees that she's okay, he then goes to the Golden Fleece, and that Clarice ends up going to save Annabeth instead of going to the Golden Fleece. It's just kind of interesting, right? Like how, and I think that's maybe why Percy kind of understands Clarice a little bit more, and Clarice understands Percy a little bit more by the end of it. So anyway, it's just some good character moments here, and I like seeing the ship again. Nice being back at a setting we've already been to. Probably because, they spent a lot of money on it. They probably wanted to make sure they got their use out of it. So I like that. But anyway, yeah, this is a good episode. I think it sets up the final episode pretty well. Again, I mean, I wish these seasons were a little bit longer. It kind of still feels rushed because there is more in the book after this, other than just like the battle at camp or whatever. But obviously they had to cut things down for budgetary reasons. So I know we're not getting Chiron and his centaurs, which kind of sucks. And it kind of is like, I know you guys have a budget, but at the same time, like, figure it out, right? Like, don't be doing these shows if you don't have the budget to do them properly. And if you have to start cutting things, like, we still haven't even seen Percy do his water powers. So I just feel like, yeah, I mean, I guess they really spent the budget on the Cyclops Eye for Tyson, right? And Polyphemus. That's probably where the budget went for CGI. But I just feel like, we could be doing more. We should be doing more. Hopefully they got a bigger budget for season 3. If not, they're definitely going to need a big budget for when they do season 5. Like, you have to. You're going to have a lot of gods. You have to. So, I don't know. They need to get their act together. But anyway, I still really enjoyed the episode. So, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel for more Percy Jackson. So thank you all for watching the Percy Jackson Son of Poseidon podcast, and until next time, later, Seaweed Brain. Bye.